Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. Prime Minister Allen Chastanet has made it clear to public servants that moving into next month, unions and the government must come to an agreement. Prime Minister Chastanet says the government continues to work with the public sector as a stakeholder given the financial deficit that the country is facing. However, he has made a stern call for people to stop politicizing the efforts that are being made by the administration to help resuscitate the economy. Public sector unions and the government remain at loggerheads when it comes to the government's proposed mixed modality salary payment. During a recent national address, Prime Minister Allen Chastanet reiterated the need for sacrifice during and post-COVID-19. He noted that by next month, public servants and the government need to arrive at an agreement which will guide both parties well into the remainder of the year when it comes to wages.
My government is not going to just impose those changes by themselves. But I have to say to you that it's getting to the point now that this is the last month that we can go through without having a definitive solution for the remaining amount of the year.
The Prime Minister has called for the politicizing of policies to come to a stop. He says the government has to put in place measures to ensure that the country does not go bankrupt. He specifically called out unions to stick to their role.
This is about doing something for our country. This is something in which we're all feeling the pain, and everybody must come to the table. And I'm really sincerely saying to the union leaders, stop it. It is not your job to tell the government how to run government. You are a component of government. And so saying that you don't like this project or you don't like that project, that is for the electorate of this country to determine when the election comes. That's when that judgment day is going to come. Right now, we have a crisis on our hands of a shortfall of $30 million that cannot continue. And if we don't find the solution, it's going to be very difficult for everyone.
Prime Minister Chastanet says the public sector needs to work collaboratively with the government as it tries to cut back on some costs as well as amass monies to pay its debts. He also explained that loaning money to pay salaries is not a wise decision.
We cannot borrow the money to pay for that $200 million. That $200 million has to come out of cost savings because it would just be impossible to repay that money, and it certainly would make a bad fiscal decision to do that. And that is what has got St. Lucia and also many other countries in the past in problem. This is why we've attempted for the last 2 months to work with our civil servants as stakeholders. Because if we continue going down the path of ignoring that financial deficit, they will get to the point where we cannot pay our debt, and also we would not be able to pay salaries.
The Prime Minister has assured that his government is working assiduously to ensure that both debts and salaries are paid. But he continues to hope that public servants understand the need for temporary sacrifice for what he describes as the greater good of the country. The president of the Southern Minibus Association is calling on pirates along the 2H route to give legitimate operators a chance to earn a living after being off the route for over a month. The drivers have resumed service but are currently on rotation. A void still exists in terms of consistent public transportation service, and pirates are said to be taking full advantage of the situation. Philip Jabatis is the president of the Southern Minibus Association. He says his members have a bone to pick with some H-plate operators after what he says have been weeks upon weeks of economic hardship. Attempts to return to a sense of normalcy, he says, are being thwarted by bus pirates.
But I want to send one message to, and I want everybody in St. Lucia and all the drivers that are pirating the 2H route that used to pirate it to understand that the 2H is running. We are running with a number of 9 people. We are running with a rotation. So the 4 or 5 buses that are running the route, can they give us our chance on that route for us to run and serve the route. The drivers, they know themselves. I don't need to mention their numbers. If they don't stop, I would have to put their numbers. The 5 or 6 drivers that are giving us the problems, could they stop running the route and let the 2H manage our route?
However, many commuters say the issue is consistency. Due to the rotation system and limited passenger numbers, commuters are turning to alternative transportation to ensure that they have reliable service. Shabatis says drivers are looking to increase their numbers and fill in the gaps that exist.
We've noticed that how things are going, so next week, God's willing, we will be increasing on our numbers to serve the public better than what we have been doing. However, I have to thank the drivers because everybody has the sentiment that they are working in spite of the 9 we have. We're still waiting on confirmation from the government, Ministry of Transport, for the 10 for Soufriere and Beaufort. But we are working, we have the sentiment. We are working, and the drivers, they have the full zeal. After that, rest to work.
The president says having 4 or 5 drivers pirating the route cuts deeply into the pockets of his members and makes an already dire financial situation even worse. The announcement by WASCO that effective Monday, the 18th of May, all services rendered to the public, including disconnections, will be resumed, has not been received well by some members of the general public. With many calling the move insensitive, the Communications and Marketing Officer for WASCO, Sherry Ann Gillard-Williams, has sought to clarify what WASCO really meant with that notice. Genevieve Gonzague has more in this report.
Many people are irate that a company which claims water is life would announce the resumption of disconnection services to the public, especially during a time of mass unemployment and uncertainty. The water and sewage company WASCO has clarified they are aware of the country's economic situation, and the announcement was to merely inform the public that all services have been resumed.
Disconnections, as in the company imposing itself on customers who are not able to meet their financial obligations, is not a priority for us right now. We are very sensitive to the plight of customers who, for some reason or another, are not able to pay their bills. We are also acutely aware of the impact of the drought conditions that we're facing right now. So disconnecting customers is not a priority for us right now.
Williams explained that the disconnection should not be taken in isolation, as it is sometimes a service being requested by the public.
Disconnections are part of the suite of services that we offer, and in many cases it is something that is requested by customers. So in certain cases where you have people probably moving a residence, for example, you would want the utility to be cut off from one place in order to be reconnected to another.
Customers who are unable to uphold their financial obligations and contract with the company are advised to call or come into WASCO's offices so a mutual and beneficial agreement could be outlined. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Novita Emmanuel Green.
With the island's borders set to be open in June, some hospitality and tourism industry workers are voicing concern. Tourism is one of the most impacted sectors by COVID-19, but it is also the country's mainstay, and the government is eager to get the sector reopened.
People employed with the hospitality and tourism sector were dealt a major blow by COVID-19. To protect its citizens, St. Lucia's borders to international markets were closed on March 23rd. As a result, many hotels had to close their doors, and a mass amount of persons became unemployed. The government has announced a phased reopening of the island's borders in June to allow international travel to resume. A hotel worker, Lisa Vijay, says while the prospect of returning to work is appealing in terms of having a salary, she doesn't think many persons may want to travel. She is seeking to find out what protocols are being put in place for people who may have to interact with the tourists on a daily basis.
What are some of the main measures and protocols being put in place to ensure the health and safety of our people, especially since our main market is the US, the UK. I have vulnerable people at home and I always question what position I would be in. Like, what if I were to take that disease back home to those people, especially my mom.
David Vijay, a taxi driver, says he believes the government should not make premature decisions, but rather should be guided by international trends.
I would prefer it happen in phase, like, keep it open just to the locally, and after, depending on what's happening over in the US, because I'm hearing the government taking certain decisions, and I listen to the news very carefully, whether it be CNN or any of the above. And to be honest, I think it is reckless right now.
Vijay says, while the economic situation is difficult at the moment, he is not going to jeopardize his family's safety by hastily going to interact with visitors when no set protocol has been issued to his sector.
Personally, I'm not considering going back to this thing anytime soon. I have a family. I ain't going to put my family at risk, all because of $1. And at the end of the day, I cannot reap the benefit of that $1 that I was so hasty after.
Vijay says, while it is being proposed that hotel workers sanitize before attending to a guest and shower before leaving the resort, the taxi drivers are not privy to such. He is also very concerned with the fact that many taxi drivers seem to be close to the vulnerable age. The taxi driver is imploring the government to ensure the health of everyone is taken into consideration when decisions are being made. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Genevieve Gonzague.
You're watching the Hot 7 TV Nightly News. Stay with us. There's more coming up after the break.